Hello everybody and welcome to my review of volume number 1 of Shiratori's light novel series, The Ryuou's Work Is Never Done. This one is published exclusively by Bookwalker on their website. It's only available in ebook format. This, of course, is their second title. The first one was The Combat Baker and Automaton Waitress, which I reviewed some time ago. Volume 2 coming by soon, by the way, apparently. In any case, so this is a deal that Bookwalker has created with the publisher. They have a set term where they have exclusive rights. You can only obtain this in English officially from their website. And then at a certain point, I guess contracts vary, but at a certain point, those rights will then revert back to the publisher, and the publisher will actually own the English versions that Bookwalker has created, and I guess we'll see what the publisher decides to do with them from there. So if you want to pick this up, I do have a link in the description down below to Bookwalker's website. Again, it is only available in ebook format. The Ryuou's Work Is Never Done is a comedy slice of life light novel. It's told in the first person from the main character Yaichi's point of view. It is basically the story of a teenage boy who has become the Ryuo, which is a very, very high title rank in the Shogi world, which is a board game, which from a Western point of view it's probably closest to compare it to chess, although there are quite a number of differences. But that's probably the closest to sort of in terms of the game, in terms of the amount of concentration, in terms of sort of the fan base and the amount of like strategy and everything else, it's probably closest to compare the two. And then so he becomes this high-ranked title, and he's in a slump. And there's a number of reasons for this, but primarily because he is sort of being crushed by the weight of his very own title that he wanted so desperately. And in the midst of this slump, a 9-year-old girl, Ai, shows up at his apartment and says that she has come to have him fulfill his promise to become her shogi master. The bulk of this first volume has to do with their relationship and has to do with Yaichi training Ai in shogi and trying to get her enrolled into the sort of practice league, which is the roadway to professional shogi players. Now, there have been 6 volumes released for this series. The most recent was released in July of 2017, so it is an ongoing series. In 2017, it ranked top of the Kono Light Novel Gasugoi light novel rankings, which are done like an online poll, and then it's a book that's published. It's fairly influential from what I can tell, and you can obviously conjecture that it's influential because this one got that top ranking, and lo and behold, there's going to be an anime now based on this series coming out in January of 2018. And of course, titles that you're very, very familiar with, Sword Art Online, the Index series, they've all appeared in this ranking. They rank not only the light novels themselves, but also most popular characters, the usual kind of stuff that you see in light novel and online rankings for sort of light novel manga and anime. So it's really obvious, to me, I guess, why Bookwalker decided this was a good book to do. First of all, of course, it's very, very popular in Japan. Secondly, we have an anime coming out for it, which always helps sort of boost interest in the source material. And it's also sort of a slice of life. It's a slice of life novel, which is really sort of an underserved genre currently being released in English light novels. There's not really very many of them. Almost all the books that we have somehow involve magic or supernatural powers or whatever. This one really, it is almost like a teenager high school battle type book, but it's using a board game that's a real thing, so that's why I'd say it fits more in the slice of life genre. So it makes sense why Bookwalker thought, hey, this is a good title to bring out. I have very, very mixed feelings about this first volume. First of all, so it's very important to know that Yaichi is about 16, Ai is 9 years old. The very, very first line of this book is, "Master, it's so hard." And then for a page and a half, we have this sort of ongoing innuendo suggesting that Yaichi and I are performing a sex act, which is completely disturbing and makes me question, like, who is the author trying to aim this book at? I mean, yeah, and then immediately after that, we have a rather lengthy section on where Yaichi's trying to prevent his master, his teacher, from urinating all over the headquarters of sort of the shogi world in their area because he lost a match to Yaichi. And then we have sort of the requisite male fumbles, falls on top of girl, they get caught by someone else, and oh, it's a compromising position. Only in this case, he's fallen on top of Ai, who's 9 years old, and she's naked at the time. And this also is illustrated of the, like, all of maybe 7 or 8 illustrations in the book. They chose that, yes, let's have this scene. So when you're reading this book from the beginning, like, initially it's being read like somebody wanted to write a pedophile fiction, but then eventually the book starts focusing more on shogi and focuses more on this relationship between Ai and Yaichi, where this girl's exuberance and, amateur joy of playing shogi, in a sense, is saving Yaichi. In a sense, it's revitalizing his love of shogi and sort of showing him a different path than the one that he has been following in utter failure for some time. And it's a sweet relationship when it's put that way. And the shogi battles are clear enough that if you don't have knowledge of shogi, you can still follow it very well. Definitely I enjoyed sort of the aspects of like the philosophy, how they kind of compare this whole board game to life, and how you play shogi is how you, sort of are as a person. The latter half of this book was fairly decent. And so when the book gets out of the way, when it leaves behind these really disturbing and I don't even know what to call them, kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, isn't this kind of, taboo? And, but doesn't it kind of, get you? Like, I'm like, who are you even writing this book for? I don't even want to meet that person. If that's what you think you have to do to get your audience engaged, like and that's what I mean. Like when you get later on in the book and it actually just becomes this sort of sweet story and not so creepy, it's not a bad book. So I am very, very mixed on this one. I think if you kind of go into it knowing that initially it's going to be a little uncomfortable, it's going to be kind of a mess, it's going to seem very juvenile, it's going to be creepy and kind of make you feel a little bit dirty, that if you get through that, if you can get through that, eventually this does turn into a somewhat sweet story. There is, of course, later on, a 6-year-old has to play shogi by sitting in Yaichi's lap, which, again, it's almost like the author did this stuff at the front of the book because he thought that, I don't know what he was thinking, but then later on, every once in a while, it's like he slips and just has to fall back into that whole, look at this. So I persevered. I read the book. I was supplied the copy by Bookwalker to review. I really, really enjoyed their first one, The Combat Baker and Automaton Waitress. I thought it was a great novel and had like a lot of pluses to it. I mean, it was a little rough around the edges, but still, it was a really decent novel. And then this one, again, it's, you know, it has some high points, but it has some low points. I mean, part of me, and I don't know if this is just me being masochistic or what, but there is a part of me that's almost curious to read the second book to see if we get away from this whole like lolly subtext and just continue on with the more innocent and sweet story of these two people, a boy who's already discovered his love of something, but is finding a new way to pursue it because of this young girl who is now just pursuing that dream. If that continues, then I think this could turn into a decent series. But if the author keeps feeling this need to fall into these traps of inappropriate lolly things and potty humor and stuff that really doesn't need to be there, I can't see myself going much further with this series. So again, the Ryuou's work is never done. It is a very, very mixed bag. If you obviously have very strong feelings about lollies and the perhaps, you know, innuendo sexualization of them, then this is probably not something that you should read. If you think you can kind of get through it because the rest of the book sounds interesting to you, well, at least you're walking in eyes wide open. So those are my thoughts on volume number 1 of the Ryuou's work is never done. My next review is going to be trying to catch up with a series that I let lax a little bit, and I've started getting there. And it's going to be volume number 1 of Nisei Monogatari. So, of course, the ongoing Monogatari series. I'm going to see if I can get this one in part 2 read before Neko Monogatari comes out at the end of November. So that will be my next review. So if you love light novels and you're brand new to the channel, you should consider subscribing. I review 2 to 3 light novels every single week, as well as doing a weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. Thank you all for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.